All right, Friday Devos with Ken. Welcome back. I'm going to jump right into it in Luke chapter 14. So what's happening here is Jesus is talking to the disciples and then also the wannabe disciples, the people that wanted to follow him, thought it was a great idea, be cool to be around the miracles and things like that. And he's talking about if you don't figure out what the cost is before you begin to follow me, you'll probably drop away. So that's what he's talking about. And then he comes to a familiar passage for many of us. He says, 14:28 of Luke. He says, "For which of you, desiring to build a tower, does not first down and count the cost, whether he has enough to complete it?" He just uses an obvious example. Of course, you're going to try to figure it out. Otherwise, when he's laid a foundation and is not able to finish it, all who see begin to mock him and saying, "This man began to build but was not able to finish." And then he talks about what king would go to war without trying to figure out if he's got enough soldiers, right? And you create a plan when you go to war. And one of the things that really hit me a number of years ago is so few of us have what we call a life plan. In other words, and a life plan, let me just explain it. It's picking one character quality that you want to develop or that God wants you to develop, or the people around you want you to develop. So let's suppose you're struggling with impurity. Well, maybe set your mind on becoming a pure man. Let's suppose you struggle with dishonesty. How about becoming an honest man? What if you break a lot of your commitments? Well, maybe become a faithful man or a committed man. What if you're selfish? Well, maybe become a generous man. And this kind of dovetails on something else I talked about, a role reversal. You want a reversal. So, but very few of us have an actual plan to do that. Well, how are you going to become more generous? Just going to become more generous? Well, that doesn't work. How are you going to become more faithful? You actually need a plan. And so what we've developed, and I'm not trying to sell you a journal, but they're just a great journal. It's the Authentic Life Journal. But anyway, we've got there on page 102, we've got the Authentic Life Plan, 90-day Authentic Life Plan. And how that works is you pick one character quality that you're going to work on for 90 days, just one, because you can't do a whole bunch. You're going to fail. So pick one, the one that's going to give you the biggest bang for the buck. In other words, the one that's going to make the most difference in your life and your relationships. And then you write it down. And the first line says, I am, you put that word in there. So let's suppose you want to be an honest man. I am an honest man. Now, a lot of people resist that right away. Well, I'm not an honest man. Well, probably not, but speak it in faith. Or, I'm a pure man. No, I struggle with pornography. I'm a perverted man. I'm a lustful man. That's our identity. Or I'm damaged goods. If you've been abused or hurt or abandoned, I'm damaged goods. And you view yourself according to how Satan, frankly, and other people have told you are. But what about in faith, speaking life and faith over yourself with the intent of getting there? So let's suppose, I can't remember, honest man, that's the example we're using. And then we lay it all out there and you start off with, I will be honest in my relationship with God by how? And then you pick two specific actions that you are going to do consistently over the next 90 days to build up honesty with God. And you don't just say, I'll be honest by spending more time with him. No, how much time? I'm not saying you got to spend time with him. Or maybe it's writing out a prayer, how I really feel. How often are you going to do that? Like you can't just say, I'm going to be more honest with God, because then in 90 days, you look back, were you more honest with God? And you'll think, yeah, there was one day. And so you can check that off. Now you got to be practical. And then you take so two things about what you're going to do to be honest with God. Then you apply it to yourself. I'm going to be honest with myself by how? I don't know. It's up to you. I'm going to pray while I go for a jog. I don't want to make it so spiritual. I'm going to be honest with myself by thinking before I speak, right? Just something like that. Or reflecting on my day. Who hurt me today? What good did I do today? Who did I hurt today? Just whatever. I don't even care what it is. Just pick two things that you can work on, specifics, so you can tell if you're making any progress. Then I'll be honest in my relationship with my spouse, perhaps, or my girlfriend, my boyfriend, if you're dating, or if you're married. And how are you going to do that? What specific things are you going to do? Two of them. And then I'm going to be honest in my relationship with my children, if you have children, and then honest in my relationship with work. And both times you pick two other component or two other action points there. And then if you want to be successful, then you hand that to a brother or sister, not a biological brother or sister, but someone that's going to hold you accountable to become the kind of man or woman you want to be. And in 90 days, you look back and say, were you successful or not? If you weren't, you can work on another 90 days. If you were, then you pick a different word. So that's my reflection this morning.